Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. CoAL of Africa CEO David Brown has called on government to ensure a streamlined regulatory environment with end-to-end processes that are attractive to investors and logistics costs that take into account the current low commodity pricing environment. Martin Creamer joins me in studio to discuss this endorsement. Hi, Martin.
Hi, Tracy.
Now, CoAL has had a prolonged and difficult project experience in South Africa. How would an efficient regulatory system have assisted it?
Yeah, and when we say CoAL, this is CoAL of Africa. So it's a company listed on 3 stock exchanges. It's listed in Australia, it's listed in London, it's listed in South Africa. So we're talking really about a foreign investor that is coming, although it's based in South Africa and is focused on South Africa, you know, it's got the foreign links. So you see the difficulties that it has in getting its projects going. And you think, well, does South Africa want investment in projects? Because, you know, this is one of the lifebloods of the economy. Now you've got a foreign investor coming in, willing to put money in, but there's just red tape all over the place. And they've had such a lot of uphill. You know, there's been environmental uphill because at one stage, you know, people thought that the Department of Mineral Resources and the Environmental Department would be working together, and in fact the Department of Mineral Resources would be calling the shots. So when they started developing Vele, which is an important coal find because it's got coking coal aspects to it, they hit head on into a situation where no, the Department of Environmental Affairs was saying we call the shots, you know, not Mineral Resources. So that hadn't been made clear by the government. So there was a lack of clarity. And when you come in with money and you're willing to spend it, there should be clarity. Otherwise, you're going to waste money. Not only are they wasting money, they're wasting a lot of time. So now you've got them wanting to do another project, also in Limpopo. You can see the Limpopo government, the provincial government, is keen as mustard, you know, wanting this to go ahead, knowing how important it is, knowing that, you know, there is this coal that could promote industrialization because it's not normal coal, it's coking coal as well as thermal coal. So you can put it into steel operations, and they're talking about wanting to do that and tying up with various steel bodies and looking at a bigger picture of how it can boost the economy, but they can't get moving fast enough because the regulatory environment is particularly unfriendly to fast movement. And there's no real reason for this. You know, if they just need to sharpen up on the efficiencies, do some liaison and streamline the thing. And this is what is being called for by David Brown, of course, who's had a lot of experience in South Africa. You know, he headed Impala Platinum, so he knows all about it. But in the project environment, he's found it very sticky. So he's saying, look, if you want to encourage, and I think he's doing the country a favor, if you want to encourage this sort of thing, and it should be encouraged, make it efficient on your side so that things can go through.
And he also commented on the logistics costs and the fact that they're impeding profitability during the current low price environment. How feasible is the company's proposal that rail tariffs go up and down with commodity prices?
Yes, this is an appeal he's made, and it, from a business point of view, it sounds very, very logical, and I think it should be made feasible because we're in a cyclical environment with mining. It goes up and it goes down, and we're down at the moment. Now, that makes the percentage of costs for rail really magnify. The calculations that are being done by a lot of people involved in this already indicate that the state-run rail, you know, needs to be globally competitive. It's out of kilter. But you can see that a lot of the chief executives are scared to spell it out because, I mean, you've got to go along cap in hand to Transnet. You don't want to criticize Transnet. That's why I'm glad that there is a move afoot at the moment where, you know, even the Minister of Finance, Pravin Gordhan, is saying you've got to push brand South Africa. We've got to uplift this image. So if we've got a problem with rail tariffs, one should see it as maybe talking about it for the best interests of all people in South Africa, because if you can get this going, you get foreign exchange coming in, and this is the big thing with mining. The two big pluses right on the top is that you get foreign investment, which is what we want, and then you get foreign exchange, which boosts our rand, and we know that that needs boosting at the moment. So he's looking long, he's looking at a time when commodity prices improve, and he's saying not only do we need to look at the Department of Mineral Resources, they must create an efficient environment, but we must also look at the state enterprises. Their offerings, are they globally competitive? If they're not globally competitive, how are we going to export anything, from our enterprises that we are developing, particularly when the price of the commodity is low? So couldn't we have an arrangement when the price is low, we have a more moderate type of tariff. When the price rises, the tariff rises with it. Now we've had that example, it's been done. Eskom did it and is doing it with South 32 in those two aluminium plants, and those agreements were long-term agreements, and Eskom has not reneged on them at all. Even though we know that the aluminium price is low, and it's been low for a long time, they've lived through that, because if you look at the total picture over the years, you'll find that when the aluminium price was high, Eskom benefited accordingly. Now David Brown is suggesting that a similar sort of collaborative arrangement be introduced with rail, and I think it is feasible. We've seen it's been done in South Africa.
And why is coal in a unique position in the South African coal mining arena?
We think of coal as something you burn. It burns and creates steam and generates electricity with the turbines, and we've got the lights around us here, courtesy of coal, sort of by and large. You get a bit of nuclear coming in and some hydro, but by and large, the big bulk of our electricity comes from burning coal. But there is another type of coal. It's coking coal. And that coking coal is used metallurgically for steel making. We don't have much of it in South Africa. This makes it very unique for coal, particularly in the Mikado project where they're going into, because this is hard coking coal. This is a rare coal product in South Africa. And that's another thing that I think parts of government are taking into account, and parts of provincial government, particularly Limpopo, taking into account, saying, this, we must look longer on this, because this can be very good for us, because it can be used internally, but it can also be exported, and the price we know of coking coal and hard coking coal is always considerably higher than the price of thermal coal, which is used and burnt to generate electricity.
And to fund this project, how does Brown expect or believe government could assist it with its funding struggles?
You see, the funding struggles are also related to the slowness of the regulatory environment. So if you could speed up the regulatory environment, you give your investors a bit of confidence. But if you keep coming back to them saying, well, we do need these funds, but we want to build this project, but we've still got to get this license and that license and all sorts of different departments involved, your investors are going to hang back, and say, well, get that first. Meanwhile, you could have that project going ahead, and that would benefit your engineering industry, it would benefit a lot of service industries, it would give jobs. Do we want that in South Africa? Yes. So let's make ourselves a country that moves with alacrity, and it's not seen as such. So he's had a lot of funding battles. I mean, you can see he's been going around to the Chinese. There's been partly equity capital, but a lot of loan capital, and the latest one is linked to the Chinese company winning a 400 million rand contract to build Mikado. So it's coming in with interested parties who also want to do construction. So it's been cleverly done, but it's not an easy ask. And you can't just go to the market these days and try and raise equity capital. You've got to do private placements and induce people in the way he's doing it. But he's had a lot of experience in this, so he is succeeding. And hopefully he will succeed further, because there's a deal pending where for the first time, CoAL of Africa, which we've known to be battling in this environment, will be a producer of coal if its acquisition of Universal Coal goes through, and it seems like it may do so next month. It's clearing a lot of hurdles. That'll mean that there is a cash flow coming through And in that way, he's 50-50 arrangement where he wants, 50% equity, 50% debt. Perhaps that can be modified a little to accommodate an infusion of some of his own cash coming through, which I think will be something that will please prospective investors.
And Coal of Africa has also expressed its interest in independent power producers or production. Why the interest in the sector?
Because I think the regulations are slicker. If you see, and the certainty is greater. And you're looking for certainty here, because if you're supplying also thermal coal, as Coal of Africa does to Eskom, there's not total clarity around there, and there's a lot of empowerment implications that you have to hurdle. So you might say to yourself, well, instead of trying to wade through that lack of clarity and do all the things that are required on the empowerment front, perhaps I should just become an independent power producer where I actually generate the electricity myself, because we find that going through the Department of Energy seems to have had a better passage. We see a lot of, not only the coal is coming through now, and there's a window of opportunity, but there's been a lot on the sun energy front and all the renewable energy front. It's won quite a bit of praise for the way it's tackled that. So if you're in coal now, you think, well, maybe that is the department I should be going through, so that not only do I get a market for my coal, but I also know exactly what tariff I'll get if I start generating electricity. So I suddenly win myself quite a lot of certainty in a sea of lack of streamlining and quite a lot of uncertainty. So it becomes an attraction suddenly to be an IPP, particularly in Limpopo, because there's a lot of talk around Limpopo being the next in Mpumalanga. Mpumalanga having supplied all our coal and still supplying the coal and will supply the coal for some time, could be followed up by coal coming out of Limpopo. And we already see Exoro big there, and they have been mining for some time. Also talking about becoming an independent power producer link, not necessarily being the producer, but tying up with an independent power producer. And perhaps coal, will do the same model. But the indications from David Brown were that he is still mulling this. He might even go the full log, and become a generator of power using the coal that is produced by the company.
Thanks, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Tracy.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on the South African mining industry.